Very good morning to you. Sunday morning coffee, big race gym, past the wire TV, shore bet coffee, am wager, watching replays, drinking my coffee, little bit of an awkward angle. Was having some internet issues, so I'm sitting on the floor in my office right next to my Wi-Fi, and it seems to be holding now. So if we have a little bit of hiccups, my apologies, but we'll try and breeze through this super quick. A couple of decent observations from yesterday. Probably the coolest thing we saw yesterday, though, was Kendrick Carmouche winning his 4,000th career race, hopping the rail at Aqueduct and celebrating with the best, most dedicated horse players in the game at the Big A. That was really funny. That was really cool to see. So good job, Kendrick. Congratulations to you. Always a nice guy. Anytime you stop to chat with him at any of the Naira tracks. So good for you. Congratulations on a nice career milestone. Um, let's dive in. Let's start at Aqueduct with the Wood Memorial and Rodriguez, who got what was really a pretty easy lead here. Uh, and in reality, this is probably the trip that Citizen Bull wished he got. We'll talk about that in a couple of minutes, but no real pressure on him here. You know, Captain Cook is about a length behind, um, but it was kind of steady as you go. Nice, pretty even fractions. You see 23 and 2 there, 23 and 1 there, and Mike Smith, the ageless Mike Smith, is just kind of sitting chilly. And what I pulled from this race was two things. I think Rodriguez is a player for sure. I think this figure came back at like a 101, I think, 102, and that's pretty good. Right? I don't know what we've seen a Wood Memorial winner look like this in quite some time. Um, Captain Cook here, I thought he had every chance to run him down given the trip that he had too, dream trip. That's his dream trip, and he couldn't do it. Um, coming out of this too, though, I think another horse that I was pretty impressed with was this Grande, the 7. He was kind of sat pretty far back off of it early, and then halfway down the backstretch, I believe this was Dylan Davis, um, got him engaged in the race, and he responded. I thought he had a pretty nice run there into the far turn and carried that momentum into the top of the stretch. And Rodriguez was just too good, and pulled away late. But that Grande would be somebody that I would be looking at um, in the Derby. Not necessarily a win contender, but definitely somebody to kind of fill out the underneath of some exotic plays. Um, I thought Grande was impressive there. Rodriguez certainly impressive. Um, easy trip, right? That's the dream trip for a lot of these Baffords with front running speed. And I just wonder why why he why he sent him to New York. Um, a couple of hypotheses would be, typically the wood is a little bit of an easier spot. Um, he had a couple of others out at Santa Anita in the Santa Anita Derby, which we'll look at in a minute, and maybe trying to separate a bunch of his stable, which is fine. But I thought he broke well, established his position, and carried it all the way around. That was a decent run down the stretch there at Aqueduct, and um, at a spot too where horses were making up some ground late. I had a nice win bet on Crazy Mason, who was in the parking lot going down the backstretch there on the undercard of the Wood Memorial yesterday, and he got to the wire first. So in a on a track that was, playing pretty fair, but horses were making up some ground yesterday. Pretty impressive for Rodriguez to draw off like that and fend off Captain Cook and Grande. Two horses that I was pretty disappointed in, and maybe that's because that's where my money went. But Statesman, I thought was going to have a little bit of a better run. Was just a complete non-factor. Um, the entire way. And Sand Devil, I thought, would have run a little bit better as well. Again, kind of mid pack early and never really threatened. You had that pack of four horses that kind of pulled away from everybody, um, and those were it, right? You had Rodriguez, you had Captain Cook, you had Grande, and I forget that fourth horse that Kendrick was on. But uh, anybody else I thought kind of ran disappointingly. And moving forward, Rodriguez I think is definitely a player in the Derby off that effort, and I also think that Grande um, is one to keep an eye on for the Derby, um, and even into some of the other um, you know 3-year-old bigger graded stakes for 3-year-olds. I thought Grande was impressive. So kudos to Rodriguez. That was a solid race. Now let's move out to Santa Anita, where journalism stamped himself as the Kentucky Derby favorite. And personally, I was kind of hoping that Citizen Bull would run them off their feet here, just so perhaps maybe, excuse me, maybe we'd get a little bit of a better price on journalism in the Derby. But Um, Westwood seemed to have other plans, and was not trying to accommodate me, another 4 or 5 weeks from now with a better price on journalism, going out and taking the lead here and taking it to Citizen Bolt. And what have we seen? This has been the critique um, on Citizen Bowl for really his entire career. He wins races when he has an uncontested lead and is able to run out there by himself. And Westwood beat him into that first turn. And Citizen Bull, kind of recovered nicely, stuck a nose in front. And then he even, we'll see here in the next, 20 seconds or so, he kind of draws away a little bit at the top of the stretch. But as soon as he gets matched up nose to nose again, he just kind of crumbles. And I wonder if he had to work too hard to get that position, get his nose in front there, about a half mile into the race, and that just kind of you know, that just kind of wore him out. Because right here, he comes eye to eye with Baeza, and he just kind of stops, and that's concerning. But you have journalism here. What an absolute monster. Not the greatest of trips in a 5-horse field, and he didn't really look tremendously comfortable down the backstretch. Seemed like he didn't really like where he was positioned, but uh, Umberto Rispoli kind of stayed calm, didn't panic, allowed the race to kind of develop and put this horse in a position to do his best running late. And like, just look at that stride, you know? I mean, goodness gracious. That horse was gobbling up a ton of ground, and which in races earlier on the card, it looked like a lot of horses were just running in quicksand, like that Santa Anita Oaks to be one, and maybe those horses just aren't very good. I'll touch on that here in a second, but journalism was gobbling up some ground, had a really, really long stride, and I thought was really, really impressive in winning that race. And once we see this finish here again on the replay, I just want to point something out. Once they changed this camera shot that I noticed when I was watching the replays again this morning, is just look at the amount of dirt that is caked on this horse. Right, look at that. His whole front of his chest, even up on his shoulders, is just caked in dirt. And this horse still found a way to angle out, gobble up ground, and put away Baeza, who looked really sharp, who looked super sharp in the Santa Anita Derby. So, what did we learn about journalism? I'm not sure we learned anything new. I think a lot of our thoughts were definitely confirmed watching this replay, watching the race live, that this horse can get into trouble and isn't going to crumble. This horse can take a ton of kickback, and he's going to have more kickback going against 19 others, as opposed to just four others, a five-horse field in the Santa Anita Derby yesterday. But he can be in trouble. He can eat dirt, and he can still find a way to do his best running late, and that's impressive to me. He'll be the favorite going into Louisville. You just, hopefully everybody gets there healthy, because it'll be fun to see him square off against Sovereignty, who, in my opinion, are the two best 3-year-olds that we've seen right now. Again, like we've seen for years and years and years and years. Um, you get 20 horses in the Derby, and maybe there's maybe 10 that you think have a legitimate shot to win. Now, sometimes those horses that you don't think have a shot to win pop up and end up do winning. I didn't think Mystic Dan had a shot to win last year, and he won. Nobody thought Rich Strike had a shot to win a couple of years ago, and he won. Um, so that doesn't necessarily mean anything really, but in my view, um, sovereignty and journalism will be the two that I'll be trying to split hairs with moving forward as I settle on a pick. That Baeza, um, I thought ran very, very well. I was impressed with him. He was kind of in the mix all throughout, and um, I liked him. I like that run from him, and journalism's just is just too good, I think, and was able to run him down late. But another strong player out out on the West Coast, Citizen Bull. Like I said, he met some met a challenge, and it just looked like he wasn't up to the challenge. Barnes, he didn't really break all that great. I know. Let's watch that start again. Um, I know the track announcer said a pretty even beginning, but Barnes is in the 4 spot, and it didn't look like he broke all that sharply to me. And just from there was just a total non-factor in this race. Um, so that was disappointing for Barnes. And I don't know that you can trust that horse moving forward. I don't know that you can trust Citizen Bull moving forward, especially in the Derby, where there's going to be um, a um, where there's going to be a ton of traffic, a ton of horses, and no easy leads. So I just wanted to watch that start of that race again because it didn't look like Barnes had the best of starts. And certainly watching it, um, we did see he was a little slow out of the gate, and that was pretty much it for him. But Rodriguez in the wood, good front running score. I like that. Journalism, what a dog. I love that. Um, so two horses that I'll be looking pretty closely at moving forward along with sovereignty. And then of course too you've got the bluegrass coming up on Tuesday at Keeneland. And I was wondering too, like, what is that? I wonder how that might impact the future training of these horses coming out of that race, right? Because you're losing like 3 days, which, the way trainers talk about, um, I needed to get one more work into them, or we missed this week of training. And I wonder how much we can trust horses coming out of the bluegrass, given that it is a couple of days later than normal. So just something that I've been thinking about. I don't know if it actually matters. I'll have to give John a call and we'll talk about it. But if anybody else has an opinion, share it in the comments. Would love to hear your thoughts on how you might think that lost couple of days as we wait for the race because of the rain might play into their Derby prep over the next couple of weeks. All right, we'll take a quick time out. We'll come back, and horse racing is coming to Netflix, which is exciting. I'll have some thoughts on that.
And they're off in the Kentucky Derby.
For some, they say it's the most exciting 2 minutes in sports. For us, it's about potential financial opportunities. Never bring a knife to a gunfight, and make no mistake, big money is up for grabs, and this is a fight. Never settle for second best. The Past the Wire annual Kentucky Derby seminar. Nobody does it better. Preparation is key. Be better prepared, delve deeper, stealth. They won't see us coming and they won't know we're there. Money management, ticket structure, pace, all the intangibles, thoroughgraph, everything that matters to make it count, to have that edge. In the end, if things go as planned, it'll be like we stole the money.
Go. All right, welcome back in. Horse racing is coming to Netflix. They've been talking about this for years. We've seen a bunch of other Netflix series on F1, PGA Tour, a couple like NFL things, maybe a couple of other sports things. And now horse racing gets its turn. Is it great for the game? Yeah, sure. Get a little publicity, maybe get some people who don't watch horse racing outside of the Kentucky Derby, maybe get them to, um, a little extra excitement leading into the Derby. So I don't think it's a bad thing. I don't think it's a bad thing at all. F1, the Drive to Survive stuff was cool. All right, I watched the first season. I also tried to sit down and watch an actual F1 race, and it didn't hold my interest. So, you know, I know John loves F1, and I'm sure a lot of you others watching love F1. I like the show. I can't sit through a whole race. I don't know. It's just not for me. And my guess is that there's going to be um, a lot of people like me on the horse racing side, which is fine. I think it's great that they're doing this. I've been hearing buzz about this stuff walking around the track since, everybody came back to the track after COVID, so 2021. So it's nice to finally see it um, being produced. I think that there will be some characters developed. I think there'll be some good rivalries kind of showcased, which will be fun. And I texted the promo to John when it came out on Twitter a couple days ago, and he just replied back with "might be okay," which I was dying. I thought that was so funny. Might be okay, and that is just like you see on horse racing Twitter, which has gotten worse and worse over over the years. That seems to be the sentiment. Might be okay. And you have the people that are like, this is going to be awesome. This is going to be so much fun. Um, and yeah, it's going to be fun to watch for us fans of the sport, for us horse players. Is it going to grow handle? Is it going to save the sport? Is it going to prevent smaller tracks from closing? I doubt it. I doubt it. Um, and I was thinking, yeah, that's a little bit of an annoying take, right? We have this sort of pessimistic sort of outlook on a lot of what goes on in racing. All right, there's an article in the TDN last week about the CAW players making up close to 50% of the pools in California, and John's been talking about that for years and years, and um, everybody was like, "Nah, it's not that much. It's not that much." Well, turns out it is that much. Um, so I think we rightfully have been conditioned to have this sort of pessimistic outlook on a lot of things. And yeah, it's annoying, but we we've been proven right time and time again that it's almost like a defense mechanism for horse players and fans of the sport to just be like, that's not going to work, because very rarely has something worked. And John's reply to me, which I thought was funny, it just kind of encapsulates the the mindset of a lot of us. Yeah, it might be okay, but this isn't going to be the golden goose. This isn't going to be the um the saving grace for horse racing. And I think where I my brain went watching this, I thought, wow, that promo was awesome. They did a good job. I know these faces. I know these people. I've spoken to a lot of them. This will be fun to see, to watch this show. But then my brain also went to, why is it 2025 and we're just now getting this? Why is it 2024 and we're just now getting racetracks working with sports betting operators? Why is it 2023 and we're just now talking about fixed odds, prop style betting in horse racing? Why is it 2022 and we're just now getting cross country pick fives and tracks working together to, put together a different wager for people? Why are we just now waiting or just now getting a Netflix special? And that's the problem with racing. It's always 4 or 5 years behind. And if it continues to be 4 or 5 years behind, it's going to be 4 or 5 years before it's, you know, looks a lot different than it does now. And it already doesn't look good right now. Like, go on to some of these ADW platforms. Like, a lot of these platforms might have well been built on, MS-DOS. The innovation is slow. The production is slow. The industry is slow. And in a world where everything needs to be immediate, horse racing still seems to be 4 or 5 years behind. I think this Netflix special is going to be awesome. I'm going to watch every second, and I think it'll be great. And I'll come on here and we'll talk about it. But this is something that should have happened 4 or 5 years ago. And it's just now happening. The conversation about fixed odds and working with the sports books and lobbying lawmakers to get a fresh wagering menu that's going to appeal to the next generation of fans. Those conversations needed to happen 4 or 5 years ago, 10 years ago. But they're just now happening. They're in the early stages where they're just kind of kicking it around and nobody's interested because we're late to the party again. And that's the problem moving forward with racing. But what do I know? I do think that Netflix special is going to be cool. Hopefully you guys watch it. We can hop on here and talk about it together. We'll wrap it up. Sunday morning coffee on Past the Wire TV, Big Race Gym. Thank you to Shore Bet Coffee and our good friends at Amwager. Don't forget to sign up for the Kentucky Derby seminar coming up in a couple of weeks. It is the perfect opportunity to kind of finalize your plays, your strategy for Oaks and Derby weekend. Journalism wins the Santa Anita Derby impressively. The favorite heading into the Kentucky Derby, Rodriguez, a surprisingly impressive, in my view, surprisingly impressive winner of the Wood Memorial. Definitely a player in my book heading into the Kentucky Derby. We'll see what happens with the Bluegrass at Keeneland on Tuesday. Everybody have a great week. Thanks for watching. As always, we will see you next week.